Yes, guys, how are we all? How are we all? Yep, I'm doing another one because why not? Alright, I'm on a bit of a roll, feeling good today, and I just watched Jesse Marsh's press conference, and I'm seeing the usual stuff on social media, but I'll be honest, as a football fan, obviously I love Leeds more than anything, but I also am part of the football business and part of this sphere. I love football, I love everything about it, I love learning about football, different aspects, different tactics, different cultures, everything about football, the art of football, I love it. So that press conference for me was actually very insightful. I loved listening to that because it was a deep dive into kind of people and the tactics and the understanding of where the philosophies come from. And for me, that is brilliant. I find that really intriguing. I find that really interesting. And that's what I want to hear from a press conference. I find there's a lot of good things that come from that. Obviously, social media disagrees. A lot of people think he's just chatting rubbish, but just because you don't, just because you don't understand something, doesn't mean he's chatting rubbish. Okay, and just because you can make a clip of a 10-second part of the press conference out of context again to fit your agenda doesn't mean he's chatting rubbish. That's just your agenda. That's fine. Listen to the press conference. Listen to the whole thing. You don't have to agree with it, but it doesn't mean it's rubbish. It just means you don't get it. That's fine. You know, I can talk about cricket formations, fielding formations. I don't get it. Don't mean it's rubbish. I just don't get it. So I don't care, right? But yeah, let's get into it. Let's get into what was said in the interview. So obviously, just got on the ball. We'll get a bit of the boring stuff I don't really care about. Yeah, Cree out for a week. Good. He'll be back soon. Good to have Somerville back. Cody's going on to Luton. Not Bayer Leverkusen or Borussia Dortmund, which you would be led to believe. Good agent. He's going to Luton. Good luck to him. Hope he smashes it there. Fighting for promotion. So, yeah. Then they got on to Chris Armas, Jesse's new assistant. And this is really interesting for me because it's a new coach. Someone else to learn, someone else to understand. Jesse talks about him, how he's played with him, he coached with him, and he's known him for a long time, and how he's someone he can really trust. And that's important for me. As you've seen with players, it helps when they have that connection, that friendship, that trust on the pitch. In a partnership, trust is important. The guy next to you. This is the same in coaching. You know, he's got some really good young coaches there. Like Ray Marich, he's a very good young coach. But having someone there that you fully trust, someone that you've been through a lot with, you know, he's won championships with this guy. I think he's won trophies, and as a player with this guy, he was his captain. Having someone there that you've worked with as a player and as a manager and built that connection and trust is really going to help. It's really going to help. So that's really good. It's a really good appointment. Obviously, Chris was meant to come in summer, but he had some personal issues, so he got delayed. Jacko's gone. So MK Don's, good luck to him. I hope he smashes it. But they brought him in straight away, no hesitation. You know, straight in. Here he is, and he's been talking to the players. He's been putting himself about. He's been getting to know people. He's a bit of a he's got a good heart. He's a good people person. Now people again are just going to use boring stereotypes and say, "Oh, you don't know tactics." No, that's rubbish. That is rubbish. Just because you're good with people doesn't mean you don't know tactics. That's a lot of rubbish. It's not one or the other. Maybe knows more things about certain things than Jesse does. Maybe Rennie Marich knows more things about tactics than he does. This is what's part of a team that you can trust. That's why it's important to get a team together that you can trust, right? Made a joke about after started how he went with his wife, which was funny to watch a football game as a date. Brilliant. And he talks about this quote which I got, and I don't know if it's the exact words. I tried to copy it as he said it. I understand the criticism. We have to win more. This just made me think of the other day when he was talking about performance, how he said he wishes coaching wasn't all about results. And people were, you know, obviously battering him because anything he says is just battered for some reason. And that, yeah, he said, didn't he, the other day, taking the quote out of context, people use that as, oh, well, that's what you've got to do if you want to be a coach. Well, obviously. And he knows that. And he even mentioned in this how he wants to win trophies. He wants to win things. He loves the cup because he wants to win things. So that's what I mean by stop taking a single quote out of context. When there's a ride, it's just a question he's been asked. and he's answering it. You know, there's a lot more to each question. You know, it's just a press conference. It's not a book he's written. So when he says he wish it wasn't all about winning, it's because he's happy with a performance, and a performance is what a coach needs from his players, right? That's what he was meant by that. Obviously, he said here, I understand the criticism, we have to win more. He's aware of that, of course he is. But he's just happy with the performance the players are putting out, doing what he tells them. That's his philosophy, and they're doing it. They just need that look or that little bit of quality in both ends of the pitch to get the results. And this is where it got really interesting for me as a you know, a young coach, analyst, whatever you want to call me, student, whatever. I like to learn about football, and he was talking about the whole Red Bull sphere, the kind of University of Red Bull. It was quoted. He was talking about how in the whole Red Bull thing, they have their own areas of learning. So you have the player pool where the players develop, the coaches where the coaches talk and share ideas, you know, the analysts and the scouts. And it's good to have an environment like that where you can learn off of people, you can learn off coaches, you can understand people's philosophies, have debates about philosophies. And this is why, for me, Red Bull coaches, or people that have come from that German Red Bull type area, whatever you want to call it, are all decent coaches. In most of them are all very good coaches that have learned from other big and good coaches. They talked about style and philosophy, you know, and how each coach from the German/Red Bull system has gone off to do their own principle, have found their own, have adapted to their own principles, found their own ways of coaching based on the idea that they learned from this Red Bull sphere. Because there's an easy narrative here, which people keep saying, which all Red Bull coaches are the same, which couldn't be more wrong. He named people there like Nagelsmann, Rose, and Struber. Nagelsmann and Rose, I've watched in the Bundesliga, play nothing like Jesse Marsch football. You know, obviously you've got this intensity, but it's different types of pressing, it's different types of areas, right? It's more width, it's more attacking areas, different types of areas, more different build-up play, different transitions. And that's what he's saying. You know, they're all different. Every coach is different from that, but they learn from each other and they take parts from each other. Which I found really interesting. Name some names there that he's learned from, which is Rose, Nagelsmann, Struber, Hasenhüttl, Hutter, Oliver Glasner, who's won the Europa League with Frankfurt. People like that. It's a great company, which for me is a big reason why I don't understand the whole, he has no idea what he's talking about. To get to the position he's been in, with those people at a similar level to him, he does know what he's talking. He knows what he's talking about. He's very educated in football. Getting results is also a thing he talked about, where he's got to adapt himself, his systems, his ideas, his philosophies to the toughest league in the world. And that takes time, and how he thinks the team's doing that. And I think the team is doing that. He also spoke about, you know, how in this country it's similar to what Pep did. You know, you've seen Arteta and company using Pep type, what's the word? Pep molds, Pep Guardiola molds, but then adapting their own personality, their own personnel, getting their own tactics into that mold to create their own style from what they want to do and what's best for the team and the players they have at their disposal. Which is just interesting, because it's easy to put all these Hasenhüttl who failed at Southampton in the same mould as Jesse Marsch, because Hasenhüttl failed, but there's actually a lot of Red Bull coaches that did extremely well. And Hasenhüttl did extremely well, and he did a good job at the start with Southampton. Obviously, whether that's a lack of investment, whether his ideas didn't quite grab the players. You know, there's loads of coaches and loads of different styles. And people will then say, well, his style doesn't work in the Premier League. Well, that's rubbish. You don't know that. There's no proof. Hasenhüttl had a different style, a completely different style to him. There was some similarities, but to say it's the same football is just pure wrong, in my opinion. And the most intriguing bit, when they was talking about how the question about playing narrow, and he talked about how Guardiola, the thing on the wall about width was actually a Guardiola principle. which he used, which he spoke about, which is very interesting. And I've actually just got the interview here, and I'll quote some bits from it. Guardiola said in the first part was, many coaches say that to avoid opponents' counterattacks, be careful about passing the ball through the middle. And then it says, well, okay, but if you're not passing the ball through the middle, you have to pass the ball through the side. Then said, but this is impossible to play well unless you pass the ball through the middle. Okay? So you have to be narrow to be wide and expressive in counter-attacking situations. He then said, but when the ball is passed through the middle by attacking players receive it, ready with their bodies on their sides in an attacking position, meaning they're in the half spaces, using the half spaces on the half turn in attacking position already to then express and attack on each side. So the guy's in the middle, he's ready to turn, he's ready to be attactive and expressive. He says here, if the ball does not pass through the middle, it will reach them from the front with the rival defender behind them. Of course, if you lose the ball in the middle, it's a risk and you screwed up. But it's a decision. A coach has to make a decision because it's going to happen to you. You lose balls in the middle and the rival will score on the counter-attack. You will come home and you will question your idea. But on Tuesday, when you get in front of the players, you will ask yourself, I will change the style or will I insist on my idea? Well, insist, Pep says. And this is important, the little story there. He's basically saying the effective thing about playing through the middle is you are then using, it's hard because it's in Spanish, I just had to explain. But that's Pep basically saying how you can, using on counterattacks, playing through the middle is a great way to begin a counterattack and to allow everyone else to get forward, right? Whereas if you play through the wing, you're very one-dimensional. You're facing one way. And then when you receive the ball, when you pass that ball, you're passing it in line with the defenders, right? Because when you're wide, you're playing high up. Whereas when you get the ball in the middle, the ball through is on the defender's turn. So the defender has to turn and adapt their position to see the ball through, right? Because they're running backwards, where if they're wide, they're more running sideways, side on, if that makes sense. He then says, if this is what you do, stick with it. Believe in yourself and stick with what you believe. So that's just talking about width and why width is a strange thing that isn't necessarily being wide. It's about the area of the pitch you play in. Like Jesse Marsh said, and which I said in my last video where I broke down the width, it's all about controlling the space of the opponent with or without the ball. Be compact so you can manage moments in transition, right? So if you lose the ball high up with a narrow, like for example, if you can play the ball out wide, you can be wide with the ball, but everyone is closer to the ball because that allows the press initiate quickly to win that ball back when you lose it. He then says, if you're open, you can't manage the transition. If we're playing wide and we lose the ball, we are wide open to a counter-attack. We're in big trouble, right? He said, manage the spaces in the match. We have to be aggressive and effective in attacking transitions and clear when winning the ball back quickly to protect from vertical transition from the opponent. Self-explanatory. That's what, also in my last video, that's what I spoke about when, the transitions. When we lose the ball, where are we? What's our shape? He said, we are always wide. We always have width, he said. It's just a matter of how wide and where we want to play the ball. Right? And then says, what should we do when we lose the ball? Right? You can't be stretched if you lose the ball. The way we press, if we lose that ball when we're stretched, there is so much space. Whereas if we're narrow and we lose that ball, we're all in the same area to win the ball back. And then this is the controversial bit which everyone's jumping on, where he says, I joke often when I say a goal is not on the sideline, a goal is down the middle. So when we win in the ball, we don't want to run to the side, but towards goal. Talking about why it's narrow and why he runs forward towards a goal. Now people are going to be like, oh, this like, read between the lines and take in context everything he said. What he's saying is the best way for him to score a goal as a team is to run in groups towards the goal, not wide, because that allows opponents to come back in front of the box. That slows, like what Pep said. If you can play through the middle, they are turning, they are on their back foot. Your position is an attacking position. Their position is side position where they don't know which direction you can run. If you're going out wide, everything is in front of the defender and they know exactly where the ball is and where the position is, right? Of course, there is times where you will be wide, but the other runs then are based on where you are on the pitch. Right? So Nonso gets the ball out wide, he might tuck in and make that narrow run. Rodrigo then drifts to that little run slightly more wider to put off the opponent. And people are jumping on that quote. That's what annoyed me. That's that 10-second quote saying about where the goal is. They've not read the entire script, talking about Guardiola, talking about all the transitions and how they make sense. And to me, it makes perfect sense. And listen to stuff like this, it makes me a lot more confident about the season. Let's get some results, because I like everything I'm hearing. People don't, that's fine. You don't have to be here. You don't have to listen to this. Let me know what you guys think. I've rambled on, but I enjoy this stuff. It's good conversation. It's interesting. Yeah. So, push. Oh yeah, I appreciate the support and likes. Legends. Peace.